In accordance with town charter requirements, the Board of Finance will hold a public hearing on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-2026 at 7 p.m. Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, in the Plainfield Town Hall Auditorium, 8 Community Avenue, Plainfield, Connecticut 06374. All electors of the town and eligible property owners who wish to be heard will be allowed to do so at this hearing. At this time, I'll open the floor to the first selectman if he has any opening comments.
Thank you. The proposed budget in front of you consists of the recent failure to pass the initial proposed budget and from what was voted to cut from the Board of Finance. Our current town proposal for a town budget increase is $407,429, or a 3% increase from last year's town budget. The key is trying to have a balance between keeping taxes manageable while preserving essential services. A police chief, superintendent, finance director, and myself met in my office this afternoon. We had been brought to my attention that there was an oversight in the calculations for officers that can be corrected if an additional reduction in police pension of $70,000 occurs, and this will allow for the service resource officer to be added as the 22nd officer for the safety of our students, Board of Ed staff, and town for the upcoming year. It does not change the bottom line for the requested budget to be voted on this Monday, June 2nd.
At this time, I'll let the superintendent share any thoughts that he has.
Good evening and thank you. The current Board of Education budget reflects a 2.9% increase over last year's budget. I'd like to thank all of the community members who came out to either email me or speak to me about things that were important for them to keep in the budget. I would also like to thank the town of Plainfield and the Plainfield Police Department for our meetings that we've had recently to ensure that we can continue to deliver the services which our students need. I recognize that no cuts are ever easy, and I appreciate the community partnership in bringing forth a budget that preserves essential services. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'll open up the floor to anybody that wishes to be heard at this time. I would ask that you please use the microphone over there, introduce yourself, and whether or not you are a resident of the town of Plainfield.
Good. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Good. Board of Finance, Board of Education, Town Selectmen. My name is Paul Sweet. I live at 260 New Road, Moosup, Connecticut. That's my mailing address. And I wanted to come tonight. I know a lot of folks don't come to these meetings anymore because they have social media most likely, and they're following it on YouTube and all these other things. And that's all fine and good, but it'd be nice sometime if people would come here and tell you all how they really feel, you know? There's a couple things on my mind tonight, and I felt I needed to come to represent myself because I have a lot of time invested in the town of Plainfield. And I want to talk to you tonight about a couple things in this budget that trouble me. I'm not picking on anyone or pointing out anyone, but clearly, over the past 5 years, if you didn't go to the fund balance, you wouldn't be able to pass a budget in the town of Plainfield. You've used $5.3 million out of the fund balance over the last 5 years. Now, that's a trend. That's a pattern. That's something that bonding will reflect when you come time to borrow money for projects here in the town of Plainfield. You know, the town of Plainfield General Fund, and I want to also point out, yes, $5.3 million, give or take $100,000 these days, I guess is a big deal, but the fact of the matter is there were a lot of things accomplished. taking money out of the fund balance. Simply, you would not be able to pass a budget if you didn't go to the fund balance. And the pattern that now exists is becoming more prevalent. It seems like this is the right thing to do. I beg to differ. The bottom line is that if you've got non-reoccurring expenses, like if you need to buy some police car, okay, we know you need to buy at least one police car a year, highway truck once every 2 years. We understand that. But the fact of the matter is, just to look at this fund balance as something you just go to, that's not right. And I don't know, there's a lot of smart people here on the Board of Finance individually. I don't know you all, but the fact of the matter is this. I don't know if you still remember, under the charter or state statute, what your responsibility is. Once the Board of Selectmen give you their budget, and the Board of Education gives you their budget, it's now your budget. Statutory, state statute makes you the fiduciary responsible for the town of Plainfield. You are where the buck stops, okay? I don't care if it's the bottom line, any line item, whatever it is, you have the authority to make a cut or to add if you feel based on information you're getting back from the public. You don't have to get advice from the first selectman or from superintendent of schools or the chairman of the board. You are the authority in the land. And you need to understand that we're going into the fund balance way too much. Now I know most of you folks sitting here tonight, some of you weren't born in 1989 and you don't remember the way the town was back then. I do. And I know what we were facing back then, and I understand you've got bonding issues coming up. I think the school needs some things done, and rightly so. It costs money. And that fund balance is there for a reason. This could help offset some of the expenses in some of these capital line items. The grand list this year was fairly anemic. It wasn't a great growth in the grand list. People are paying more for food, and I'm not talking about the 1% of the town of Plainfield that are in that high bracket. They're there because they worked and they earned where they got. But the 99% of the other folks is who I'm here representing tonight. Food prices are up. People got to feed their children. Eversource bills are up. And you got to pay for power. There's a reality here that people are already taxed, overtaxed, not by their tax bill, but by just trying to make a living and pay the bills and raise a family. Now, maybe you don't see that like I see it, but I will tell you something. The people can only afford so much. People trying to buy a house today, it's difficult. A house in Plainfield today, a starter home, if you can find one, at $250,000, that's a good thing. That's the best you can do. And it costs money to be able to better themselves. Two things I wanted to point out tonight to you all. One is, every employee in the town of Plainfield is either working for a collective bargaining unit or they got a contract of some type. So fairly, they understand their job. They're contract union employees. It spells out their conditions, what's expected of them. Town policy and procedures are set by the Board of Selectmen, Board of Education, and these employees have to follow suit. Why the town of Plainfield needs a human resource officer or human resource position, I can't understand it. You come in this building during the day, there's no one here. Everything's done on computer today. Building permits, zoning permits. You can't, unless you make an appointment, you can't just walk into town hall anymore and see someone to talk about something on your mind. And not everybody is computer literate. Okay, I imagine most of you folks can do pretty well with a computer, but not everybody. And I guess, and I'm not picking on Kevin, but what's his job? What's Kevin's job to manage 4 or 5 unions that everything in the conditions are all spelled out, and everything you do is on a computer? You got to run a town. When there's a kink in one of those contracts, first selectman's got to deal with it. That's just the way it is. You don't need another body. There's enough bodies in this town hall. Another thing, really troubling. This idea of leaving the transfer station down a rude road to build a transfer station up at the Public Works garage. That is a disaster. You don't need a transfer station at the Public Works garage. Casella, I guess, I don't get paid by Casella, but we have a contract with them. I'm assuming that all the public buildings that we have, the school and the government, pay Casella. They're the professionals. They're in the garbage business. We can't, to build a transfer station and go into the fund balance and take $200,000 is just the beginning. The transfer station is regulated by the Department of Environmental Protection, the DEEP, Department of Environmental Energy, whatever. You have to have a permit. They control the permit. It tells you where and how and when. They also talks about violations, enforcement violations. Your employees got to be certified. And my understanding is this is going to be an outdoor transfer station. Somebody brings in a liquid that nobody knows about and they spill it on the ground. The town is now responsible for it. You have to have a cleanup. If somebody comes in with medical waste in a plastic bag, okay, that could have some kind of iodine or mercury or some type of that, it's now the town's responsibility. Right now, it's Casella's responsibility. They need to police what's going on. I understand, talking to the first selectman, that they're taking advantage of us. Well, if they're taking advantage of us, go to Boston, go to Vermont, go wherever you got to go and get this worked out. Now, in 2007, I told people of Plainfield they're going to pay $1.25 for every tax bill that goes out of this building. $1.25 toward the transfer station. Everybody thought that was a political thing. It wasn't. Today you're now paying $10.50. But the townspeople don't get a whole lot back. They get the roads plowed, they have public safety provided by the police, kids are being educated by the school system. But you don't want to be in the bulky waste business, folks. You don't want to be in the bulky waste. This is another thing to go to the fund balance, take $200,000 because it's there. That's nonsense. We already have a company paying taxes here. They can employ people from Plainfield here. We don't need another transfer station. We don't need another body in this town hall. It's up to people to understand that's in the leadership to make it work. Now, I'll conclude. I understand, I've been in these positions like you all. You don't want to say no to anybody. You don't want to say too many yeses to anybody. Nobody wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but the Board of Finance has a fiduciary responsibility, and I'm hoping, I'm assuming, that when they give you a budget, they're giving you the detail of what every line item is going to cost. And an explanation why we're building a transfer station. An explanation why we got to hire a human resource person. No, right now you might want to think about hiring a town administrator, which the current Board of Selectmen has the authority to do. We need to start drifting toward that and get a professional in here that's in here all the time, whether it's a man or woman, that's here all the time. So when the political season comes around, there's continuity to all the employees and to the management system. These are things you need to think about. That's all I'm going to say. I just want you to know that I'd rather tell you to your face that this trend of going to the fund balance because it's there, just for the sake of another thing, is not right. Non-reoccurring expenses, something you need right away, you've got to have it, and nobody's going to argue with you. But stop spending money on another service that we already have provided to us. I think there's about 1,800 permits a year that go out, something like that. You know, I don't use the town hall pool, but I've paid the tax so people can use the town hall pool. I don't go to recreation that much, but I'll pay the tax to go to recreation. You see, there's different segments of society, and those 1,800 permits that go down there, that means a lot to those people, you see. So, yes, we all pay money towards something, but we don't all take advantage of that something, you see. So I understand paying our way, and so people help other people who can't afford to do it by themselves. And that's what the bulky waste thing's all about. There's 25,000, maybe plus now, or maybe a few minus, I don't know, but in that area, tax bills that go out of here. And for that $10, even if it was $12, where are you going to go to get rid of your junk when your bulky waste when you really need to? It's a lot cheaper than a dumpster, you see. If the contract ain't solid and tighten it up, do what you got to do, but don't go in the garbage business. I'm telling you that. It's not regulated by the local zoning boards and you folks. It's all regulated by the state of Connecticut. And the last thing you need is the state of Connecticut running around your town looking for trouble. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Carla Destrades, 398 Plainfield Pike, homeowner, taxpayer. I'm here this evening because a lot of the comments I made at the last public hearing really haven't been addressed in the budget revision. Like Mr. Sweet, I'm also concerned about the amount of money being taken from the fund balance, because when you look at the increase on the town side of the budget, it's actually more than the indicated amount because that money is coming from the fund balance and not a mill increase. So it's important for the people to understand what are recurring expenses and what are one-time. So how many of those that are being taken from the fund balance this year will also have to be taken from the fund balance next year or a mill increase next year. So these are things we have to think about. We vote on the budget 1 year at a time, but what we do in this budget year impacts the future budget years as well. So that's important. With the police pension investment, it's around $650,000. Once again, I haven't seen that we're going to have a lot of police officers retiring in the next 2 to 3 years. So to make that hefty investment in 1 year, when maybe we could pass that over a couple years, might be the better idea. I agree with Mr. Sweet about administrative positions. When we think about a full-time athletic director or the full-time HR person, I did see in the revision that the HR was cut to $55,000 with the understanding we'll be utilizing NECOG services for that. So I question what other services are available through NECOG that we are not currently tapping into. Are we funding full-time positions for things that we could actually use a shared service like NECOG? In my comments at the last public hearing, I mentioned more shared services between the Board of Education and the town side because we all pay the same tax bill. So if we're already paying for services that the Board of Education has hefty resources, then why aren't we also using those same resources on the town side, saving us all tax dollars in the end? I still believe that public servants should be looking out for the people, so the Board of Selectmen taking a 3% raise this year, I think is not serving the public. So as a public servant, the Board of Selectmen should take a freeze this year. Also, any non-contractual, non-union, non-mandatory, non-essential expenses should be frozen. It's the responsible thing to do, given the increase in everything else that people are paying. I still question the $100,000 line item for the ambulance service. It's not a town-owned department. It's my understanding that they bill patients, so I question where is our $100,000 going for that service, and this is a $20,000 increase from the previous year. So what are the expenses for that? And if it is a third-party service, then why isn't that a contractual competitive bid process, right? I also question $200,000 for a town-owned transfer station because we did run one previously. There were deep violations. They were costly to address. We have a third-party vendor for those services now, so they assume that liability. And if the contract's not serving us, then we need to negotiate a better contract. We all pay taxes to the town, so we should be finding the best way to use those taxes. I'm not against paying taxes as long as they're for good purpose. and they're also being used wisely. And I think double paying for things, not utilizing services that we have, either through the Board of Education or through NECOG, which is the Northeast Council of Governments, or anybody who doesn't know NECOG, Northeast Council of Governments. So we need to look and spend more wisely, especially when the residents of this town are tightening their belts. The town needs to do the same. I won't repeat my entire speech from 2 weeks ago, but it's really important to remember that there are people struggling to stay in their homes, and an increase of any kind hits their budget harder than some others. I'll be fine, but there are people in this town who won't be, so we have to think about everybody, and when we look at line item by line item on the budget, we just need to be smarter about a few things. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Finance and other Plainfield residents. There we go. My name is Chris Russo. I've been a Plainfield resident in Moosup for 9 years. I've also been a teacher here in Plainfield for 8 years, teaching for 9 years overall. I'm not going to talk about all the surveys or data I've gathered or gotten from the state the past few years. Everybody's already heard that already. So I just want to endorse the current budget as it stands for both the town and for the Board of Education. Both sides have had to cut significantly from the proposed budgets before and even after the cuts. The town budget cut an additional $320,000 on top of the already cut $290,000 for a total of $610,000 cut. The Board of Ed cut an additional $480,000 on top of the already cut $400,000 for a total of $880,000 cut. These are not easy cuts. I cannot speak to the town side, but having sat in hours of Board of Ed meetings where they deliberate on how to make cuts that hurt the students the least, they did the best they can. In case some of you weren't able to go or watch it later or review the documents, I posted on our favorite Plainfield residents page. Let me share. The Board of Ed has now cut a 5th grade teaching position, which will mean larger classes, and make it harder to teach students effectively. They cut 2 proposed security positions, much needed in our schools. They cut a proposed high school position, possibly limiting electives that our students can take, which will help make PHS competitive and a school that students want to go to. They reduced summer curriculum hours so that once again, those teachers that want to try to improve their curriculum and teaching pedagogy over the summer are not able to. They reduced software and technology budget as well as instructional supplies and equipment. So, not only will it be harder to get or fix the Chromebooks that our students use daily, they'll make it harder to go back to pencil and paper if more technology fail, since we have a little budget for that now as well. Prior to the budget felling, the Board of Ed already cut a proposed kindergarten teacher and a high school teacher, likely leading to bigger classes for the teachers staying. At our oldest school in Plainfield, there are cuts to replacement doors and safety equipment parts. At PMS, they are cutting the replacement of the sprinkler system. At PCMS, they are cutting replacement doors and safety stair treads. They are cutting these needed items and positions because year after year, the town has cut the Board of Education budget again and again. The items needed to be fixed are starting to stack up. We may not feel it today, but one day we'll be down to a one-room schoolhouse, something that some residents might cheer for. Now, if the budget doesn't pass again, all town residents are going to feel the reverberations of that decision. The impact of the Board of Ed budget felling may not happen or be noticeable right away, but your future kids and grandkids will notice it. For example, the 102 teachers that we've lost over the past 4 years may have been partially due to budget cuts from the previous 4 years. The fact that we can't pay our teachers or paraeducators or even our subs well enough to stick around is a ramification of the previous budget. The last referendum on May 19th only had 7.5% voter turnout. However, the 2024 presidential election had 77.5% voter turnout in Plainfield. This means that almost 7,500 more people voted in our presidential election than the town budget, which will impact everyone in the town faster than national politics. I'm asking both main political parties here, as well as the town of Plainfield, as well as all of you residents, please get the word out to vote on June 2nd. Education, like protecting our liberty and constitutional rights as citizens, is not something that you invest in once and hope it does okay. It's something that needs to be done again and again. Otherwise, the consequences will be dire for our town and country. Please stop cutting the budget year over year, and please go out and vote and support this budget. Thank you for your time.
Jenny Kipsikevich, 265 Gender Road. I'm a taxpayer and property owner here in town. First, I want to publicly commend the Board of Education for listening to parents and the community members for essential programs at our schools, namely the athletic director and the school resource officer. I appreciate that the town attempted to have a joint collaboration to provide services that are much needed. I have a child at the high school and one entering, and if you haven't seen or heard of what's happening in our public schools, the school resource officer is 100% a required item in this budget. And so I just want to say thank you to our Board of Ed who heard, and Mr. Brennan, loud and clear what the community wanted and needed. As far as our town side of the budget, I think it's really important to hear me clearly that while I am supporting this budget, I think we can take some reflections for future budgets and how we prepare them and make sure that each line item is accounted for and that we are not enlarging another area of the budget for a future potential shortfall to make a line item transfer. So I want the Board of Finance to hear that I support this budget as proposed.
Is there anyone else? All right. If there's no one else that wishes to make a statement at this time, then I will entertain the motion that we adjourn. Motion made to adjourn. Do I have a second? Motion made and seconded. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.